What's up, Bulls fans, and welcome to Top of the Order. I am Adam Cartwright, and with me is Matt Giardino. Matt, how are you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good on the eve of the next midweek baseball game here. Really excited to talk some Bulls baseball, and luckily for me, I actually have a Bulls baseball game on my birthday tomorrow. So hopefully, the Bulls will come out on top.
Awesome, yeah. Hopefully, you bring some birthday luck. Happy birthday to you, Matt. Well, we do have a great show planned for tonight as we will recap the weekend series with Charlotte. And as you alluded to, we will preview the Tuesday Stetson midweek matchup. And we have much more planned as well. So we'll get right into it with our weekend recap. Unfortunately for the Bulls, we had some trouble traveling. Wasn't able to get out on time. Did cause a schedule change, forced us to go from a Thursday, Friday, Saturday to a doubleheader on Friday, and then the recap on Saturday. So was a little crazy getting going, but you really couldn't tell as Friday started off with the 11-2 victory. Matt, what were your thoughts of that first game on Friday?
Yeah, just an all-around complete game. Huge shout out to Hunter Mink. I think that was probably the best performance I've seen him have, in his time as a Bull. Obviously going complete game, only giving up 2 earned runs. Just seemed like he was in control of that game the entire way. I think at times we were kind of wondering if he'd go the whole way, especially as pitch count got up there towards the end. But ultimately, it was a really well played, well-rounded game for our Bulls.
Absolutely, it was. It really could have been just the first, if not one of the few, just real complete games that we've seen where the offense is really clicking. And then we obviously got a great start on the mound, or fantastic start. I have to agree with you. I think it's one of the best starts I've seen from Hunter Mink in his career here. You alluded to we didn't know if he'd come back out in the ninth, or we did have the big 5-run ninth inning, which kind of caused him to have a big gap at already over 100 pitches. You wondered if Mo might think about that, but in that situation, you just have to look at it and say, if he wants the ball, you really have nothing to lose by letting him go back out there and try to finish it. And he did exactly as he had done the previous 8 innings. He finished it off without allowing a run there in the ninth. He did fantastic. Ball was flying. Stuart Puckett got a home run. Ben Rosenblum got a home run. Puckett's, if I remember this first one, was that the really deep one? I think he hit
Oh
that
yeah,
over
he
the
cranked it.
mile. Yeah. Really, really good home run. Doubles from Jackson Mayo. He had two of them. Marcus Brodell had a double. Matt Rose had a double. 14 hits overall. Still managed to leave 11 runners on base. That's kind of a trend you don't like to see. Any thoughts about the offense overall?
Yeah, like you said, I think the one thing that really sticks out to me from this game is the left 11 left on base, which I think turned out to be a little bit of a trend throughout the weekend. But I think with a game like that, that could have been an opportunity to maybe get a mercy rule victory. But ultimately, I think it worked out well because Hunter was able to go the full 9. But I think that's something that we really need to keep an eye out for as the season progresses is the runners left on base, and I think we'll talk a little bit more in detail about some other issues with base running as well.
Absolutely. Well, great win in the first one that led us into the second game. You were hoping maybe you didn't see a real kind of fall after kind of, the game really got a hand out of hand there in the ninth, and it really ended on a really high note. You hope it didn't fall, and it kind of did. As offense kind of trickled off, only getting 3 runs across. Again, 11 runners left on base. And another concerning trend with that is 9 of those 11 runners on base are being left on by the top half of the order. So the guys you're really hoping to be the producers are maybe who's not getting it done in that situation. And then on top of that, on the mound, you kind of got the same thing. Jack has a very uncharacteristic start, allows some runners to come in. Kind of a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation there with the doubleheader. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the thing is too is with Jack, he didn't get off to the best start, but he was able to give us 6 innings, which is all you can really ask for, especially with the start that he got off to. But I think one thing that we really have to keep in mind too with this offense, and I know the left on base issue is, really sticking out, especially after this weekend. But ultimately, we're a lineup without, your three, four, five hitters in there. Your everyday sluggers, whether that's, Bobby Bozer, whether that's Eric Snow, even Rafael Betancourt not being in the lineup. Those three guys not in the lineup, and the fact that we're still producing, a good amount of runs, enough runs, I think, to win most ball games. I think it says a lot about the depth that we have as a roster. Um, but ultimately, I think those guys coming back will really allow us for us to see, what this team could potentially do.
Yeah, you mentioned those injuries. We saw Joaquin Moncay playing shortstop this whole weekend due to that. So again, things aren't necessarily right, but kind of what you alluded to, maybe this second game not so much, but the weekend overall, the offense did manage to put some runs across. So when those guys do get healthy, you can only imagine that we're probably going to have to put a good hitter on the bench, and that's not a terrible problem to have. One thing I thought about this doubleheader, how it ended was, Tony Rossi, who was their top pitcher overall, definitely their top reliever. He ended the game by having to throw about 25 pitches in a game that was kind of out of, you don't want to say out of hand, but was handedly won. But they really felt like they needed to take that game after what happened in game one. So you felt like going into Sunday, maybe that might be a bit of an advantage, especially since Beavis was able to finish off the game for Jack. You maybe looked at a lot of our bullpen and thought, wow, we've got a lot of really good bullpen arms that are going to come into Sunday. Maybe Rossi is not as sharp. Maybe that gives us an advantage. I'm sorry, Saturday. I said Sunday twice there. That Easter weekend get me again. But going into the Saturday finale, uh, again, you thought we had an advantage, didn't work out for us. What were your thoughts on Saturday?
Yeah, I think that was a real surprising thing for me too. Is just we really thought we had a pretty stacked bullpen. We had two great outings, both by Jack and by Hunter, at least going pretty deep into the game. Overall, I think the thing that really hurt us was just getting off to a really bad start again. And it seems like every time we get off to a bad start in the first few innings of a game, it always ends up being difficult to come back. And especially now, with our lineup the way it is and not having our power bats to really rally us coming back from games late in the innings. But ultimately, we like I said before, we put up enough runs in the second game to win most games. But ultimately, it was a little bit of a disappointment seeing some of those base runners being given up throughout the game.
Yeah, and you really have to when you look at the pitching, you have to kind of applaud Riley Skeen, Matt Brown. They had some really good outings. They might be earning some opportunities as we move forward. Um, Walks kind of were a problem throughout the game. However, nine of them in total. We also hit two batters, gave up 12 hits. That through it all, the game was kind of in our hands there into the last two innings until it got away from us there in the eighth. And again, I mentioned Tony Rossi. You thought we had an advantage. He proved for that not to be the case because he comes in the next day, throws another 38 pitches, managed to turn that into three innings. And again, that was a huge, he turned that into a huge advantage for them. He really had a great weekend when you looked at it. So got to applaud him for that. Again, though, another game where the ball is flying. John Montez has a great day with home runs. Drew Brutcher gets one out. Stuart Puckett gets another one out. Brodell hits another double. Stuart Puckett's one of those guys that I mentioned. When all those guys get healthy and come back, he's going to have a place somewhere. He's earned it with the way he swung the bat. So he's going to be one of those guys that's going to cause a decision. One of those good decisions to have. And whenever we do get healthy.
I
Um,
think too with Marcus Brodell, he's really taken this opportunity and made the most of it. He's been getting a lot of extra base hits, kind of as we mentioned in last week's podcast that he's very capable of doing, and he's doing that with the extra at bats that he's getting.
Yeah, and you almost feel like he has kind of taken over that left field position. which again is going to cause one of those decisions because once he takes over that left field position, everybody gets healthy. That was kind of where Ben Rosenblum was doing a lot of playing. Well, he can't really go to the bench. Is he going to be the full time catcher now? What does that mean for Moncade? Does he go to third? Now we've talked about Puckett. Can't really come out of the lineup. So now does he go to first? Well, now Bozer's healthy, so he's going to kick Montez back over to first. Rafi's healthy, so he's taking the DH. I mean, again, there's just going to be these decisions that Coach Mo is going to have to go through whenever guys get healthy. But it's a great problem to have. If anything, we know if somebody's having an off night, we've got a good guy to come off the bench to maybe make something happen.
Yeah, no, that's definitely potential to make a big difference, especially late in games and pinch hit situations.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, it didn't go the way we wanted. With the series 2-1 series loss. But again, I think there were some positives that we can find and move forward. What were your final thoughts kind of on the weekend as a whole?
Yeah, I think Riley Skeen did a really great job of coming in there, especially after Bryce Hartree only went 1.1 innings. I think he kind of settled things down pretty early in the game, gave us an opportunity to build a solid lead. I think the one thing about the pitching, and at least the usage of the pitching on the Sunday or the Saturday second game was I really would have liked to seen Kyle Scrape come in, especially while we still had a lead. He's been such a great pitcher for us, being able to accumulate a lot of strikeouts and really shut down opposing batters. So I think ultimately, he's going to have his plenty of spots to shine this season, but I think that would have been a great opportunity to use him.
Yeah, and you hope it was a situational thing that kept him out this weekend and not a flare up of some sort, that we're not aware of. So yeah, absolutely, I agree. I hope we see him back, and you really would have hoped to have seen him throughout this somewhere in this weekend. Although Hunter Mink and Jack Seaver didn't leave much room for it.
Yep.
But leading into our stars of the weekend, Hunter Mink was named an AAC honor roll for his performance. Again, that was 9 innings pitched. He only gave up 2 runs, struck out 6 with only 2 walks, and for the win there on the first game on Friday. So again, congratulations to him, AAC honor roll, and again, congratulations to Stuart Puckett. He had 2 home runs on the weekend, and again, just continuing to earn his way into having more opportunities. Any thoughts on these stars? Any stars you want to add to it?
I think those two guys are really the main stars of the weekend, like you said. But I think there's so much excitement just watching Stuart Puckett, especially after he redshirted last year, and he's gotten his opportunity this year, and he's been amazing. He's done nothing but hit ever since he's got in there, and now we're seeing the power come out. I'm really excited to see him not only this year but for future years as a Bull.
Absolutely, absolutely. Congratulations, you guys again. Puckett, we hope you can really keep that going. And Mink, we're gonna see you on Friday night, we assume. Well, moving on to the midweek report, we have Stetson coming up here on Tuesday, which is possibly tonight, depending on when you're listening. We record on a Monday night, so it will be tomorrow for us. Stetson is going to come into this with a record of 19-9. They have an RPI of 130. They are the all-time record between USF and Stetson is a deadlock at 21-21. However, for us on the road, we are 9-12, with the last meeting being an 11-5 loss to Stetson. For this season, they do have a 4-game split with West Virginia. They are 1-3 over their last 4 midweeks. However, that one is a win over UF, and those losses are to some notable teams, as it's a 1-0 loss to FSU, a 1-7 loss to UCF, and a close loss. I don't remember exactly, to Georgia. So, what are your initial thoughts here with the game of Stetson? It's usually pretty competitive, I feel like.
Yeah, no, you're right. Every year it's a toss up going into Stetson, and it doesn't matter whether it's home or away. They're always a tough team as represented by the 21-21 record against them. But yeah, they seem to be really tough this year with a 19-9 record, like you mentioned. Those teams that they play during the midweeks, extremely talented teams, top 10 teams in the country. So they're going to give us everything that they have coming into tomorrow. I'm sure they have some pretty strong pitching that they throw out there in the midweeks as well. So I expect it to be a pretty low scoring game, actually. I might be surprised, but I think it'll be a really competitive, low scoring game.
Absolutely. I mean, you may have heard of some guys, Jake DeGrom and Corey Kluber and Logan Webb, but those are all some alumnus of Stetson. So they do bring some pedigree, especially from the pitching point of view. And a couple of guys we might see are going to be John Mondungo and Ty Van Dyke. They've kind of bounced off the last four midweek starts. They probably do tend to use a lot of guys on the midweek, as we've kind of seen. Um, John Mondugo sports a 2.81 ERA, whereas Ty Van Dyke has been a little less successful, I believe. I remember. Yeah, it would be 5.23. But again, you never really know what you're going to get with a midweek. Again, we could see six or seven people, but again, could be very, very competitive. Uh, any final thoughts about the midweek matchup?
Yeah, it just seems like, both of those guys, they've been good, especially as of late. So it'll be interesting to see, who we end up throwing out there tomorrow, and if we're able to, be a little bit more successful with guys on base and uh, ultimately come out on top.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's hope so. Again, 21-21. We want to kick it back into our side there. Well, next we have a bit of a statistical analysis. It's going to be led by Matt here. Going to kind of highlight some trends that we've been noticing. So Matt, why don't you go ahead and take it away and tell us what you got?
Yeah, so just a couple things that we analyzed, and it's been really interesting this year. We've had a very competitive schedule at times, and at other times we've been able to play some teams where we've been able to have our way with. And it was interesting seeing the breakdown, how our team performs compared to with the top 150 RPI teams compared to teams that are 150 to 305. It's pretty even split when it comes to the total amount of games that we've played. We've played 13 games against the 150 to 305 RPI ranked teams, and we've played 15 games against the 1 to 150 ranked RPI teams. And there's a really stark differences between our performances throughout those games. And one of those things that really stuck out to me was the overall base stealing percentage. I think when it comes to games from 150 to 305 in the RPI as our opponent, we're 40 for 49 on steals, 81.8% success rate. But when we play against teams that are a little bit more tough, 1 through 150, it drops to 17 out of 28 on steal attempts, and that's a 60.1%. So I think that's really interesting, especially when we look at this past weekend, pretty tough team on the road. We ended up having a lot of guys picked off and caught stealing. So I think that's something that we really need to have a little bit deeper of a consideration for as we're going into these matchups. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, you do expect there to be a bit of more of a drop off when you go from, playing a lesser team to a better team in terms of RPI, but you really don't expect it to be as stark as what we're seeing here. And you kind of saw that early. We might have saw it against some teams. We were getting some stolen bases out of some non-traditional base stealers. And some of those stolen bases were coming because catchers just weren't making good throws. And so when you play the better teams, you're going to play catchers that are probably going to make good throws. And so we're seeing that kind of happen. This weekend, I felt like, and this might be a trend that's happening when we're playing some of these better teams, is we were very hesitant. A few of those pickoffs, uh, at least one that I can remember, it kind of got started because we thought about something and then we just stopped and then we got caught to where we were and making bad reads and making bad decisions will cause that hesitation as well. And so that's something you can work on to kind of get better with that. But that's also causing some bad jumps against some of these better teams. And so it's one of those things where if you're going to be aggressive, you got to really commit to it. And if you're not, then you're probably going to see some of these start drop offs. But it is very much concerning.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it carries to basically every facet of the game. And, we can't be intimidated by the name on their jerseys. And ultimately, I think the best way to go forward is continue to be aggressive, but also pick your spots as well. Um, but yeah, and then just kind of adding to a couple other things that we found over the weekend was, top 50 against top 50 RPI teams. We averaged 4.66 runs scored per game in 15 games. Against teams that are 151 through 305, we're averaging 10.46 runs per game. So ultimately, these are things to be expected when you play tougher teams, like you mentioned. But ultimately, we really need to continue to get better, and if we want to be one of those teams, we need to be able to compete at that level as well.
Absolutely. It's like you said, we got to just get a little bit better. I mean, 4.66, isn't necessarily terrible, uh, but it kind of puts your pitchers in a position where they got to be really good. And so
They
you
got
don't
to
want
be
to do that.
Yeah, they got to be Hunter Mink on Friday night.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do you have any other stats we want to look at?
Yeah, the last thing that I wanted to look at too was just the overall team batting average versus the top 150. Currently, that stands at 247 against teams in the bottom 150. That's at 340. So, we're definitely finding our spots to be able to put up some numbers, but following the same trend line. Just need to continue to get better as a team. We need to continue to be able to find ways to compete with some of these teams that are in the upper echelon of college baseball.
Yeah, and see, of the three stats we talked about, this is probably the one that's concerning to me, and maybe the one I want to circle is, the 100-point difference between, that's a full batter out of 10, that's getting a hit. You kind of want to see that 247. I mean, that's not good, no matter where, how you break that down over a 15 game span. You want to see that up around the 280, 270 range in the minimal, that 340 number that we see. That's probably what some of the better teams in the country are doing, on a team for a team average. But you definitely want to see us hit more in that 280, 290 range against the top talent. Probably puts us in a better position. Probably see our runs per game go up. Might see our steal numbers get a little better because we're a little more confident in the box, hitting the ball. Um, but again, so that's kind of the stat there that I would maybe want to circle.
And ultimately, I think it doesn't need to get exactly even with our stats against the bottom 150, but if we can close the gap, I think we'll be winning a lot more games.
Absolutely, absolutely. I believe that as well. Uh, well, at this time, I think we will move on to our segment for Name That Bull. I do want to go ahead and tell you that the answer for last week was Myron Leslie. Myron Leslie, again, he played for the Bulls back in the early 2000s. Just to highlight, again, in the 2001 season, he batted 366 to lead the team, back that up in the 2002 season to bat 310, and started in over 120 games for the Bulls during that span. So an absolute fantastic Bull. Pretty happy that he was able to lead off our new segment. Again, for this segment, we will give you three clues about a past Bull, and then we will hope you will comment and maybe try to make a guess. And then next week we will talk about who that is and give you another set of clues. For this week, this Bull played baseball at USF from 2004 to 2007 as a left-handed pitcher and an outfielder, and made a team high 28 appearances as a freshman. After he graduated USF, he went back to his alma mater of Cocoa High School to coach football. And then third clue, since he has gone on to coach professionally and college football with stops at Jacksonville State, the University of Florida, the Indianapolis Colts, and the Chicago Bulls. So we will ask you there, who is this past Bull? Again, make your comments in the X post for the episode. And if we have a winner, we will shout them out on next week's show. But I do believe that is all that we have for this evening. Matt, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know in Bulls Nation that we will be having a tailgate this Saturday, starting at 11 o'clock in partnership with Fowler or with SoFlo Rodeo, excuse me, as well as Barstool USF. Really excited to have the opportunity to organize the event with them and also being able to see a lot of fresh new faces out there, especially the students. So if you were listening, please feel free to come down, and it's also bring your own booze, but also we will be having pizza, so that will be really fun and exciting.
Fantastic. Again, I hope to see you guys out there. Be on the lookout later this week for Thirsty Thursdays. Sorry, my Southern came out there. Thirsty Thursdays, as Mark and John will be giving you all of the details that you need for this weekend series. Well, for Matt and myself, I do want to thank you for listening, and we hope to see you all at the Red this weekend. Go Bulls.
Go Bulls.